I'm going to talk about wealth and poverty. Wealth and poverty. Amen. I don't know why you are excited about it, whether it's the poverty side or the wealth one. Wealth and poverty are very powerful forces. They are forces that rule the world. The world is ruled by these two forces, wealth and poverty. And they drive everything that happens in the world. Poverty is a very powerful force. People may not see it, but a lot of people's profession is based on poverty. Without poverty, they will have no job. For those people, it is important that poverty continues. A lot of the work the United Nations does is based on poverty. And for the UN to survive, people must be poor. Proverbs chapter 10, verse 15. Proverbs chapter 10, verse 15. The rich man's wealth is his strong city, but the destruction of the poor is their poverty. It's a very powerful phrase. The rich man's wealth is his strong city, but the destruction of the poor is their poverty. So that clearly tells you that poverty is a destroyer. It is that which destroys the poor. And it beats my imagination why anybody will embrace a destroyer as a friend. Or anybody will preach that a destroyer is good for you. Because the destruction of the poor man, cars. Wealth does not include things like cars or household items like televisions, fridges, furniture, because they are not readily converted into cash and lose value with time. So when you go to buy a brand new car, from the moment you drive the car from the lot out, it loses about 20% of its value. Just by driving it out. That means that if you bought a car, drove it out, returned it the next day, the price of your car will be discounted. So the car hasn't given you money. It has actually cost you money. It's interesting that people see possessions of things like cars as manifestation of wealth. So sometimes when you see people showing off their wealth and they say, look at my cars. And they show you all kinds of cars they have as a sign of wealth. Wealth is not seen in cars because cars do not appreciate in value, all things being equal, except it's an antique car or one-of-a-kind car. Apart from that, your car is an expense to you. To keep it alive, you have to feed it. I mean, wealth in a larger sense includes things like the blessing of God, the peace of God, health, happy marriage, family life. I know all of that is wealth, but that's not what I'm talking about. So When I'm talking about wealth, I'm talking about having abundance of valuable possessions. Wealth defends the rich. Ecclesiastes chapter 7 verse 12 says, money is a defense. Those who have money use it to defend themselves, to secure their power and their position. When you have no money, you have no defense. It's just amazing what can happen to people when they have no money. Money is a very powerful force for defense. It will defend your dignity. And when you don't have it, you may lose your dignity. There was a particular rich man who used to be in Ghana. He lived in Accra. And he supposedly had a lot of money, but nobody saw the money. And he had a very big house in Accra on McCarthy Hill. And this man used to, at the end of the year, have parties in his house. And when he has party in his house, he would display a lot of money. And he would say that he will give so much money to the one who dances the most or the best. And people will go and dance. And fathers will be competing to outdance their children. Children are competing to outdance their fathers. And as the competition gets deeper, people now start contorting their bodies in very bizarre ways and all kinds of movements simply because of money. And when you look at the people, you see that they are simply cheapening themselves, degrading themselves, destroying their own dignity because they have no defense. Never, ever in your lifetime praise poverty. Never. So what is poverty? Poverty is a lack of material resources or money. Poverty can either be absolute or relative. Absolute poverty is when you don't have enough to take care of basic needs of life. Relative poverty is when you have met basic necessities but wish for better. So relative poverty is when you want something but you can't buy it. When you want something you can't buy it, you are relatively poor. In other words, you go to a shop, you see a shoe. It will look good on your feet. You want to buy it. Everything in you says this shoe is yours. But you look at it, you turn the backside of the under of the shoe, you see the price, and you quietly put it back. That is called relative poverty. So relative poverty is when you desire something which is good for you, and it may not be something extraordinary, but it's good. Maybe you want a second pair of shoes, you want a better trouser, you want a better bed, you want, a better car, but you cannot buy it. You are not absolutely poor, but relatively poor. In relation to that thing, you are poor. In this world, the wealthy are few, the poor are in multitudes. 65 people of the world's wealthiest people own half of the wealth of the world. That's serious. Africa's wealth, your continent and my continent, at this point I think it's about 3.5 trillion or thereabouts dollars. 3.5 trillion dollars. That's a lot of money. The whole of Africa, South Africa to Egypt, Senegal to Somalia, Ghana included, Nigeria included, all of us, 3.5 trillion. The wealth of 4 companies, Apple Computers, Google, Alphabet, we just crossed 1 trillion. Amazon, Facebook, the one you've been using. These 4 companies are richer than our continent. Four companies, most of them established in my lifetime, for all of them established in my lifetime. The oldest of those companies is Apple. It was set up in 1975. The year I met Pastor Ransford. Four companies. Run the world. So in this world, wealth sets the agenda, poverty fulfills the agenda. There are people whose money determines who should govern a nation, but they need those without money to ensure that their agenda comes to pass. Those who have money are a few. The masses who have the vote have no money. So those who have the money sets the agenda for who should be governing nations. There are people whose money finances research, but they need those without